So talk about generating quality leads, understanding the lead generation process. Now, you are a marketing person. Understand that. So you should be studying marketing, right? Marketing is one of the biggest. That's where I spend the majority of my time in the real estate business. Unless I'm going on an appointment, getting a contract, or doing whatever, I spend most of my time on marketing, generating leads. That is where I spend all the time, right? So, because generating leads, if you can generate the leads, you got the inbound calls coming in, you get potential opportunities, you have the ability to set appointments with your sales guys or yourself to go out and generate revenue. But here's the thing, and I want to talk about when it comes to generating quality leads and understanding. First off is defining what we're looking for. Once you define what we're looking for, then it becomes clear of going into the world and literally picking out exactly what we want. It's like if we're digging for gold, you have to know what gold is before you start digging. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of dirt, and dirt's going to come up, and you're not going to know whether it's dirt or gold. So you have to define specifically what you're looking for. So when we're marketing, we have to understand what we're marketing for. And what we're marketing for in this business is we're marketing for motivated sellers, right? So what is a motivated seller? A motivated seller is someone that needs to sell, and they need to sell now. So if we're a marketing company, we're wholesalers, right? Generating leads, we're a marketing company. We have to find sellers in the marketplace that need to sell. So if someone needs to sell, they don't want to sell, they're not thinking about selling, down the road I want to sell, they need to sell. Those are the deals that you'll convert the best. They absolutely need to sell. So then let's think about who in the marketplace, of all the billions of people in the world that own houses here, that we're going to have the ability to target in our specific market, right? Who needs to sell? Well, people that have a situation, and they're called circumstances, right? There's different forms of distress, and we'll talk about the different forms of distress here. But in these different forms of distress, when we look at it, we got to look at what are different forms. So we got number one, we got physical distress, where the property is in physical distress. Number two, we have circumstantial distress. There's some sort of circumstance. There's a divorce. There's some sort of inherited problem. There's a probate deal. The third type of distress is financial distress. So there could be some potential financial distress that is looming somewhere. So we're looking for distress, and those are the only three types of distress. You got physical, the property's physically distressed. You got circumstantial, and then you got financial, some sort of financial distress. So we know that now we're looking for someone that needs to sell. There's got to be some element of distress, and now we have to, when we do that, we want to look at those three different distresses. So now let's kind of dive in those three forms of distress, and then we can turn around, and now we have different channels to target those three different types of distress. So now remember, we're talking about marketing, finding sellers in the marketplace that need to sell, and they need to sell now. So when you meet with them, you know for a fact that they will sell the property no matter what, and they're going to be selling the property, and they're going to do it here shortly. And you know they have to do it shortly, so they're going to cut a deal with somebody, and why not make that somebody you? So let's talk about the three types of distress. The three types of distresses we got. The first is physically distressed properties, right? So physically distressed properties. So if you have a physically distressed property, that's when the property's boarded up. That's where there's potential code violations. So one of our lists that we hit, our code violation list. This doesn't have to be a huge list, but this is a great list. So the property is in such major distress in a physical form that the city has come out and actually have issued a violation on the property because it's so physically distressed. That's called code violations, right? That's a form of physical distress that you can target physically distressed code violation properties. when you're going out there and you're meeting sellers and you're driving around, vacant properties have a high form of physical distress. Vacant properties, high form of physical distress. So if you're going to look for physically distressed properties and a property's vacant and the guy is paying for it and it's been vacant for a while, that is a physical distress that you can target. Where can you get code violations? I actually have a person sending me code violations. I don't have his information. Maybe I'll put it up in the in my stories here at maybe later today. But you can go down to your city and you can pull code violations, and you got to do a couple different things. Now, every single lead that you get coming in, there's different marketing channels you can touch them, you can hit them with. You don't want to hit them with just one, you want to hit them with many. And so once we identify who we're looking for, and then the list, to be able to pull the list or get those names, then we want to target them with multiple different, I'm going to give you the multiple different channels. So we're talking about finding quality seller leads that they need to sell and only need to sell. Violation doesn't essentially matter. I've had violations where the city says you literally have to tear down the property. So now they're forced to tear down the property. That's fine. Now you can just valuate it on land, right? Versus valuate it on the house itself. So anyway, so the bottom line is you're in a situation right now, and now you have those physically distressed. Vacant properties are great, and code violations are great. Those are lists that you can get. Those lists are that you can get your hands on and you can market to. And I'm going to tell you the different best marketing channels, the most cost-effective marketing channels to get in front of these people. Number one. So that is physically distressed property. The other way is where you're actually driving. One great method is you can pull all the code violation properties, you can pull all the vacant properties in a specific area, and on the vacant properties or those code violations, you can stick a bandit sign right in their front yard, So think about this. You got a vacant house that's sitting there. It's been vacant for a while. And you come in and you stick a sign that says, must sell fast for cash, right? You put a sign in the front yard. People talk about, oh, we're going to do bandit signs, but you have the problem with code violations when it comes with bandit signs, right? So you're afraid of code violations. It might be a $250 fine or something. You put it out in a corner, you put it around, high traffic areas. This, if you take a bandit sign and you put it in the yard of a vacant house, you're not going to have code violations, right? You'll never have a code violation issue, right? So you take that and you put it right in the front yard. It said, must sell fast for cash. Now, two things are going to happen. Actually, three things are going to happen. One, you're going to have a neighbor call and they're going to say, hey, that seller, they moved off in Phoenix, they moved off to Mexico, they moved off here, they moved off to a different state. And you're going to say, great, well, we'd love to buy the property. Can you get me contact with the seller, right? So then you can get in contact with the seller. The second thing is going to happen is a buyer's going to call you to purchase the property. Say, hey, I saw your sign in the front yard. I want to buy it, right? So now not only are you going to build a buyer's list, and you're now going to have a buyer that wants to buy that property because you put a sign in front of a vacant house, right? Now you can put them on your list, and then if you can get a hold of the owner, you get a buyer in hand ready to go, right? Number three, the third thing will happen is that you're going to have the seller call you is exactly what you are looking for. Now, if the bank owns it, don't do it, right? If the bank owns it, if it's a vacant, you don't know the bank owns it, just stick it out there. They're just going to pick it up and they're going to throw it away. But the bank is, you don't want to deal with the bank because there's too many, they don't need to sell, right? They're sticking it on the market and they're going to make as much money as possible. You're looking for people that need to sell, right? That's the gold that we're looking for. That's what we're digging for. So now you turn around, you put the sign. The third thing that's going to happen, the seller's going to call you pissed. They're going to call you and say, what are you doing? I'm sticking your sign in my front yard. And I'll be like, well, what are you talking about? And I'd say, well, you stuck a sign in my front yard. Well, and they're going to call you and say, well, what's the address? Because I don't know what you're talking about. What's the address of your property? Because I want to know, because I've had some sign, some of our guys put out signs on different properties that we have across the valley here. Maybe I put it on the wrong property. So what's your address? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Seller. He must have put it on the wrong property. My fault, my mistake. So, oh, by the way, are you looking to sell? Right? Because we're buying houses in the neighborhood. And then he's gonna go, well, yeah, and it's so is the house vacant? Next thing you know, now you're talking to the seller and you can get that particular deal done. Now remember, what we're talking about is generating quality leads. We're talking about different ideas to be able to do it. And there's 3 types of distress. We know that people need to sell that are the properties in physical distress. We can target code violations, and we can target properties that are vacant properties. Those properties will sell eventually, and why not sell to you? And they absolutely need to sell, and they got to solve their particular problem. So number 2, right? Number 2 is where you have, when there's circumstantial distress, some sort of circumstantial distress. Circumstantial is something is happening with the seller. There's a circumstance happening with the seller, and they're going to have to sell their property. Well, here's one circumstance. Circumstance is one where there is an inherited property, right? So an inherited property. So you can target probate, or you can target inheritance. The best inheritance list you can get is usleadlist.com. 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 That's probably the best inherited list you can get. We mail that list constantly and consistently, because you're going to get sellers that have inherited a property. The property's trashed or whatever, and they just want to sell the property. They don't have emotional attachment to it, and they want to sell it quick. Those they are in a need to sell situation because they have to settle the estate. So now you've got physically distressed, you've got circumstantial. What's another circumstance? Probate. What's another circumstance? Divorce. A divorce situation. Majority of divorce situations, either the wife gets a house, the husband gets a house, or what happens is they say you have to sell the house. They're forced to turn around and sell the house and be done with that property. So now they want to just sell it and be done with it, and typically they want to move on. So the circumstances. So we got probate, we got inheritance, we've got the, what's the third one? We got the where they're in a situation where they've inherited or probate property or divorce situation, or you can actually target water shutoff, right? So they got their water shut, but that's more of a financial or potentially a financial situation. Water shutoff is where the actual utilities have shut off their water, and now they can't have any water to the house. You don't have water to your house and you're actually living there. That is a highly distressed situation, and you can be able to potentially get that deal. The third financial distress situation is where there are financial distress. So we got circumstantial, we got physically distressed property. Now we got circumstantial, we got financial distress. So we got financial distress is pre-foreclosure. They're about to lose their house to pre-foreclosure. Property tax default. They haven't paid their property taxes. There's some sort of lien on the property, and that lien, right, is a situation. So the bottom line is that so now we have the third, the physically distressed. We got the third physically distressed is financial, and we talked about that. So we got lien properties with liens, properties in pre-foreclosure, properties in property tax default. The water shut off could be essentially a one is a high distress. Now we know that's all we want to hit right now. Those are distress lists. Then the other lists are blanket lists. Those we're hoping, wishing, looking to find sellers that want to sell their properties, but the conversion is going to be a lot lower. The cost per lead is going to be a lot higher. So now you have all these distress lists. We got circumstantial, we got financial, and we got physically distressed properties. Now we have those. Now we want to do multiple different marketing methods to get those deals done. And the best marketing method, number one, is to send them a postcard. You got to send them a postcard. Number two is you're going to skip trace that list, right? If you're in REI Automator or flipmorehouses.com, that's where we do that. For the water shut off, you can get it down at the city. From there, you can get the city will you can do a request for those and you can get those. So the number one is you're going to send a direct mail piece. Number two, you're going to skip trace. And when you skip trace, you're only going to get a percentage of the actual numbers and contact information for sellers. It's about anywhere from maybe 60-70%. So you don't want to leave the other 30% on the table, and the other 30% are ones that could be gold, right? So what happens is now that you pull, we got these 3 different types of distresses. We just talked about where to get the list. Now we want to target them from multiple different angles. We want to send them a postcard, number one. Then we're going to skip trace the list, pull all the cell phone numbers and active landline numbers. We're going to then RVM them. RVM is ringless voicemail. We're going to send them a ringless voicemail. You can go to getrvmleads.com, getrvmleads.com. It's the cheapest, most effective way that's automated to get leads. It's literally our number one lead source is getrvmleads.com. So you're going to hit them with direct mail. Then you're going to hit them with RVM. Then you're going to hit them with voice broadcasting. You're going to do a voice broadcasting campaign to them. Then you're going to actually physically pick up the phone and you're going to call these sellers. You're going to have it. You're going to cold call these sellers, and you're going to do all those methods. Now, when you're going out to the properties, that's when you put your bandit signs in the front house. You can take a list of all these code violation properties, all these properties with liens, vacant properties, all these physically distressed properties, and you could put signs, right? Especially the vacant, the code violation properties, you could put those signs directly in their front yard, and you're going to get sellers to call. You could do that out on a Saturday in the morning. You wake up super early, you go out in the morning, you go out and you put out 25, 30 bandit signs on vacant properties. Your phone will ring that day and you're going to get deals. It's going to happen. So now what happens is now we got these forms of distress where people need to sell their house. They absolutely need to sell it. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get to pull those different lists. The majority of them you can pull from flipmorehouses.com, flipmorehouses.com. Make sure you use the coupon code FLIPFAM, to use that so you can get a 30% discount. But what's going to happen is now you're going to sign up for that. You're going to get that. You're going to pull that list, and then what you're going to do is you're going to send a postcard, you're going to ringless voicemail them at getrvmleads.com, then you're going to turn around and you're going to voice broadcast them. You can do that again with getrvmleads.com, and then you're going to turn around and you're physically pick up the phone, and then you're going to put a bandit sign in their front yard if it's a vacant house, and you can possibly get that deal. So that is, if you do that, you will get a deal, I promise. There is absolutely no reason, if you keep consistently just doing that. That is called the low-hanging fruit. If you're going to go into a market, if I was going to go into any market across the country, that is, I would get all those distress lists for those market. That's the low-hanging fruit, and I would surround them with my message by doing what we specifically just talked about. If you do that, you will get a contract. You're going to get sellers that need to sell, and now you know they need to sell. Now you just got to show up and you got to make an offer and you got to negotiate, knowing that you can go out and get the deal. Now, I'm telling you guys, that will make you a check. If you're wondering, I don't know how to get a check. I'm trying to get a check. I don't know. I haven't got my first check yet, and I want to make it consistent. That's how you make it consistent. You make it consistent is by turn around and you're hitting these sellers every month. You pull these lists every single month. You pull them, you skip trace them, and you can skip trace in REI Automator as well. You can do that. You pull them, you skip trace them, you RVM them, you direct mail them, you voice broadcast them, and you cold call them. You do all that, right? And you're gonna have a low cost per lead. You're gonna get deals. It's a low marketing budget, and that is literally picking out of the market all the low-hanging fruit. All right, guys, go out there and crush it. Have a fabulous day. Rock the house, and I'll see you soon. God bless.